Happy Monday, everyone. This is Martha with Nature Niche, and I am here with my friend Curt Holsinger, owner of Timber Tree Care. He is out on my property today doing some conservation arboriculture, helping me with some trees that need some work, and we're going to make them into habitat. So I thought for this week's post, we'd talk about the decision-making process of snag habitat, kind of how do you decide what to keep versus what is a safety hazard, and you might need to do something more like a brush pile. So Curt, kind of
sure, yeah.
Exhibit number one is a big tooth aspen that I knew was hollow because it had a hole and I had squirrels going in and out by my bird feeding stations, and it had a fair bit of lean. And when Curt was out here kind of helping us get ready for this work, you were concerned about this tree, right?
Sure, absolutely.
What did you see that gave you pause?
Yeah, number one was just the species. The aspens in general are pretty fast growing and pretty weak, and when they get to about yay big, they start kind of aging out, and so they're gonna just kind of start dying and getting decay in them. That's just kind of par the course, yeah, for these species. So that's the first red flag near a house. It's large.
Yes, we are right by the garage.
And so on further inspection, it had, you can't tell now, but at the time when it was still standing, it had a significant lean that way. It was really committed away from the house. And looking at the cavity in it and knowing that where that cavity was up here, there's a really good chance of decay going up and down. And had we needed to do more of a full inspection, we could have, sometimes we'll essentially take a core sample, a really long drill bit, and we'll slowly drill in and keep assessing the shavings as they're coming out and seeing if they're good bright white, good solid wood, okay, or if they're starting to turn, I don't know if you can really see, but kind of just a darker brown color. Yeah. We would have noticed that had we done some core sampling in there. So kind of, there's a few ways too, if it's not obvious, to do a little deeper assessment. Okay. But given this tree's commitment to away from the house, Martha was fine with keeping it, made a decision that, hey, it's an okay risk, and really every homeowner has to decide what's the level of risk they're acceptable to. Yeah. And my birds really liked perching in this one. The squirrels were using it. I hoped it had a little more life in it, but it did not this January with that really heavy snow and the ice. Yep. I think the weight just brought the crown down, and as you can see, it threaded the needle in between my... Very impressive. It was, yeah. Somebody was looking out for me on this one because we had very little damage, and in the end, we're going to leave the log and just cut a pathway so that I have access to my feeders, and we are going to clean up the crown and add that to my existing habitat piles, just because right now the squirrels can get around my raccoon baffles. So we'll have to kind of right that situation. So this was a good example now of, hey, this is a safe level to leave this snag. So it's great habitat, yet is obviously not going to fall and hit anything height-wise, and would just kind of slowly decay. Now it doesn't have all of that sail and all of that leverage that was above. So, the cavity and the weak spot was obviously here with 30-40 feet of tree above it, and then throw in that extreme condition with that wet, heavy snow we had. Yeah. Tremendous amount of leverage. So we can understand why it failed here. Yep. But now it's great habitat on the ground. Just changed location. Yeah. But it's still fantastic habitat. Right. So we're at the crown end of that big tooth aspen that came down with the storm damage, and I'm at a sapling northern red oak. And so we're definitely in the timing of this tree work. Curt and I are thinking about the risks associated with oak-wilt fungus, that disease. Right. And we're purposefully doing the work here at the end of February, because that's the least amount of risk when the picnic beetles that help spread the fungal spores, they're not active.
I did look up, so Michigan DNR Forest Health does recommend, if you're going to do work on oak trees, to not do it April 15th through July 15th. That is your highest risk time frame. And the Michigan Oak Coalition recommends November 1st through March 14th as the lowest risk time frame. So if you can keep within that window, that's best. So we are well within that window. And with this poor little red oak sapling, it got pretty torn up. So Kurt's gonna kind of go over kind of what we're thinking to do with this, given that damage.
Right. So I mean, in every tree owner is going to have to make the decision for yourself whether this tree is worth giving it a shot. Is it damaged too much? Do I want to just prune the broken, let it try? Or you know what, depending on what you want to do with your space, maybe it's time to just take it all the way out and start over. Because this tree is honestly going to suffer quite a bit. It lost its main leader, it's lost most of the laterals, and so by the time we prune off what's broken, there's not much left. And so, right, given the available space, you may want to just get a new tree growing. Or with this one gone, that may be benefiting the other species around it to the point where, you know what, kind of nature made the decision, this tree's out, but the other ones will do better. In this case, what Martha would like to do is leave this as a small snag with a spot for hanging feeders on. So just with the oak-wilt consideration, we are going to paint the ends so that there's no exposed sap that the sap beetle could get on to bring that fungus. So that's what I think we're going to choose to do with this one, so that we can still get some use out of it, knowing that it may want to sprout back. It might try to keep living. Odds are it's not going to amount to anything but a great bird post feeder, a feeder hanger.
My aesthetic sensibilities are pretty broad, and I don't mind giving it a shot to see what happens.
Perfect. We'll see. So as we were walking around, we noticed this other tree here, and looking closely at the base, some cause for concern. This is certainly one that we want to place kind of on the watch list. And if you take a look down in this center here where they all come together, and you may even be able to hear just the hollowness that's going on there and down in. So kind of where these trees all come together, and this is kind of just a habit of maples, just a characteristic where when they all grow up together, that's just kind of a recipe for decay. And so we can see that one has already fallen off to the side here.
Yep, we left that and just let it decay and fall.
Sure, absolutely. Sometimes it is the best thing to do. Just let it be like it is. Phenomenal habitat, phenomenal fungus. So this remaining tree does give some cause for concern, mainly with regards to the house. Right,
because these stems are leaning towards our backyard fence and towards the house.
And so herein kind of lies the importance of a full 360-degree tree inspection. So when we're looking at trees and assessing them and assessing risks, if we were to just look from the house side, we would never spot this cavity.
Sure.
It would look like a full, complete, healthy tree, and we would look at the crown and say there's lots of leaves, so it must be doing well, but can be very deceiving.
Yeah.
And it can be really deceiving because really a tree only needs, let's say, a 1/4 inch of growth around the perimeter. The xylem and phloem are transporting nutrients up and down, and it can be vibrant looking, full of foliage, but structurally, if we were to give it another grade, it would fail. And might literally fail on the house. So it's important when assessing trees to give them a full look all the way around, up and down, looking up and down as you go around, because you don't know what's hidden on the backside.
So this is one we'll keep an eye on and probably have to at least take some stems down in the next year or two.
Sure. Mitigate the risk.
Yep.
Some can be left, but the ones that are aiming towards the house, may have to go.
There's a target.
Well, there's a target. There's a target in place.
Yep.
Absolutely.
All right. So now we're at a very large and very old white oak in my backyard. And this is one that we've been keeping an eye on. The canopy has been thinning out over the last 3 or 4 years. I think that impacts in its drip line, just accumulating over time, may be the cause. I don't know for sure, but there's a septic field in our backyard, so that would have impacted the root zone when that went in about 15 years ago. And then probably within the last 5-6 years, the house behind us was built and irrigation system put in, which would have trenched into those,
severing those feeder roots.
The upper root zone. And so the tree has been stressed for a while, and last year finally we had no leaves in the canopy, and I started to worry about what happens when this oak tree starts to break apart, because it's so close to our property line. And while I love it and the birds love it, we're gonna have to make a snag out of it and mitigate those safety concerns, because if some of these branches go, they're coming down onto our backyard fence,
taking fence out.
And I'm worried about impacts to our neighbors with the branches that are leaning that way. So and again, we're working on this oak, timing considerations, the oak-wilt again, and I was also thinking about bats, because this is a big, good habitat tree already. Our migratory bat species, you don't want to do tree removals April 15th through September 15th. So again, we're timing our work in the winter to avoid impacts for any bats that might be roosting in the tree already. But Kurt, do you want to talk a little bit about kind of, I guess, to make it bat habitat, I asked if you could possibly keep it at least 12 to 15 feet tall.
Sure.
But kind of what your thoughts were on why it was okay to do that.
Yeah, so I mean, a big part of the decision factor is there's really nothing within 12 to 15 feet. I mean, the fence here, open yard here. Now, if there were a play station over here, a play fort that was close, we might reconsider that height. But ultimately, a big sturdy white oak like this, odds are what we've seen typically is they're just, especially at that height with all of that sail, all that canopy gone, it's not just going to tip over. It's going to just slowly degrade. The pileated woodpeckers are going to be hammering away on it. It's just going to.
I do love this.
The carpenter ants. Oh, I bet they do. So it's going to be a great feast for a lot of organisms, and just slowly break down. I don't really foresee it tipping over by the roots, especially with the canopy gone.
And part of that's the species?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So yep, you're spot on there. So let's say if this were an ash tree, ash love to root rot. So anywhere where ash is touching the ground, it rots really readily. And so you notice that a trend in the woods and around, you see a lot of these dead ash trees that they'll die from the top and start dropping pieces. But typically when they fail, that's where they touch the ground.
I'm pretty sure I showed one in the post I did on the importance of coarse woody debris. We showed one that we left because it was just going to fall into the wood, and that's exactly what it did.
Sure,
it broke up at the bottom and snapped.
Yep. There, as a climber, we're always really cautious about working in ash trees because, I mean, especially the ash and other species, you just can't trust them when they start to die. But a white oak, trust them for a long time. You know, they're a great rot resistant wood if you're going to build an outdoor picnic table, if you're going to build outdoor furniture. You know, before treated wood, white oak was a really common wood for bridge decking, for benches. So it's a great species. One of my favorite species. It really is. And I'm also really glad that Martha got a hold of us before the tree got too far rotten to make it safe to climb.
Yes, I was worried about that for your safety too.
So I think we're at a good window where there's, you know, it's dead, it's starting to decay, but not to a point where I feel unsafe. And then there's certainly a lot of trees that I will walk away from and say, my business model, my niche is that I don't have any lift on purpose. I climb everything that's safe to climb. And so I will often refer trees that are no longer safe to be up in to a company that does have a lift, even these backyard lifts that you can go in, like Jeffrey's Tree Removal or Kindy. Great companies, great people, and can safely do some of these trees. But this one I feel comfortable to be up in still. And we'll do some lots of crazy rigging, lots of fun rigging of getting the branches away from the fence and bringing stuff down safely. Martha's got some trees that have been planted around here that she wants to save. So a little bit of technical work, but makes it fun, makes the job exciting.
Yeah. Okay, so we're on the last tree for the day. This is a multi-stem red maple, and this is one I'll have Curt kind of talk through our thought process on this, but it is going to come all the way down, and as a homeowner I'm okay with that because I know, one, I have lots of red maple, two, I have this really nice American beech sapling that I wouldn't mind making space for some good witch hazel in the understory, and I have another northern red oak over here that could benefit from opening up the canopy in this. This is a strip along the side of the house, so between my home and a roadway. So Curt, if you want to talk a little bit about structurally what's going on.
Yeah, so and like Martha's saying, every tree is different, and every site needs to be assessed to determine what will benefit if we take this down all the way, and what will benefit if we leave it up somewhat. And again, it's mitigating those risks.
Right.
Every tree owner has to decide what level of risk am I acceptable with. 0 trees equals 0 risk. But who wants 0 trees?
I don't want that. No.
Right. The world needs trees.
Yeah.
So yeah, every site is different, and absolutely it makes sense to take this one down for a number of reasons. And obviously on the right side, obviously to me as a tree guy, but even if you all as viewers could get up and you could see how bad the decay is up in that tree, it's a no-brainer that side at least has to come down.
The woodpeckers have been using it for a
They've
while.
been really happy with this tree. I can tell. So it's gonna come down on its own. Gravity wins. So we're just gonna decide when and how safely. But then the question is, okay, well, how about this left side? Maybe we could leave this up. It's still got good foliage up top in the summertime. It still looks healthy. But if we zoom in down here at the base, we can see that in that previous maple we looked at, we talked about how it's kind of a characteristic of maples. They like to have their buddies close. Well, when one of their buddies dies off, it opens up all this decay. And so we can see that this decay is rotting into this remaining one here. And so we also have what we in the tree world love to call included bark or inclusive bark. And so between these two trees, since they've grown so tight together, we've got bark all the way around this one, bark all the way around this one, and so it's bark to bark. So it really isn't a solid wood connection. And so if we were to leave this one on the left and remove this right side that's really bad, the decay is going to continue. There's nothing really holding this in on that side at all. So it's kind of for that reason that it makes sense to remove this one all the way down.
There's actually turkey tail at the base of the...
Thanks for pointing that out, Martha.
Yeah, yep.
So anytime, I mean, this is a great thing for if you're a deer hunter and you're up in trees often, or you're out in the woods, you go camping. Anytime you see this fungus turkey tail, that is a red flag for the structure of that tree. That fungus loves to eat the structural fiber in trees. And so you will see in the woods, after trees had that fungus on it for a while, it looks like a chainsaw cut. Because when the wood breaks, when it fails, there's no fibers anymore. So instead of a branch breaking and splintering and tearing,
being ragged,
if you see turkey tail, you watch, and if you notice a tree in the woods that fell over from that, it'll be clean as a chainsaw cut.
Wow.
And so, you know, if let's say if you're a deer hunter and you're looking for a tree to put a stand, and you see turkey tail on that tree, that's an automatic game changer. Do not pick that tree because it will break off. Almost 9 times out of 10. It doesn't take much force. So giving that indicator, that's another clue that confirms, yes, that's fungus is in this tree. It will be in this side soon. it all needs to go.
Yep, with the lean towards the house, and
Right.
we've left it for the woodpeckers as long as it's
Sure, they've gotten their
safe
good full use out of it.
Yep.
Yep, absolutely.
Now we'll take it down and
on your property, you also have a good number of other options too. So it's nice. This is not your only snag.
It is not.
So
yep,
it's all a balance.
Yep. Great. Absolutely. Well, Curt, thank you so much for all the insight.
Sure,
and,
absolutely. Thanks for having us out.
Yeah.
Always excited to talk about trees and fungus and just ways that we can steward everything that is under our care. Everything in our responsibility to care for. It's just fun. It's just exciting. So thanks for having us out.
Yeah, thank you. I hope this was helpful.
So I thought some of you, if you have time to keep watching, might like to see the end result of this work. But the meat of the post is finished. I wanted to try to help folks make decisions about where to leave or keep snag habitat on your own properties. But this is the big tooth aspen, cut in the middle to give me access, and now I have a place to sit and film my birds. With the red oak snag there for hanging a bird feeder as well. And here's a look at Curt and his two-person ground crew working together to remove the crown of this really large old white oak. While it was sad to see it come down, I was so impressed with how they approached this. All of the rigging necessary to keep Curt safe and to safely bring down these very large oak limbs. They were so careful, did a wonderful job working around my bird nest boxes, my backyard fence, and the black cherry and serviceberry and other trees that I wanted to save or had planted underneath this oak. So kudos to you and your team, Curt. It was great work and really interesting to see how you approach dismantling the crown. For those of you who maybe just started watching these weekly posts, I wanted to remind you to double back to a snag habitat demo that Curt did for us quite a while ago. It's Monday with Martha number 40, of different options you have, different ways you can create snag habitat, and he did that on his own property. So did a great demonstration there. That post might be helpful to you to think about snag habitat options on your own property. And then Monday with Martha number 184, where I talk about the importance of coarse woody debris, both standing snags and on the ground. The finer parts of the crown were made into two nice brush piles. And if you missed it, you can double back to Mondays with Martha number 127, where I talk about the importance of brush piles for wildlife habitat. The guys made me some tree cross-sectional cuts, or tree cookies, and I was able to count the rings and determine this oak was at least 90 years old, if not more. And here's Curt's approach to taking down that double-stemmed red maple tree. I just want to reiterate how important it is to hire an experienced professional who is insured and certified and knows the proper safe techniques for creating snag habitat or taking down trees. And then here's a look at that included bark that he mentioned on that double stem. It was definitely rotten and very spongy. And a look at the top of that second part of the tree that the woodpeckers were using. So it's definitely good habitat up there, but getting to the point where it could break up and fall on our house. So probably best that this tree ended up becoming another wildlife habitat brush pile. I hope this helps you with the decision making about snag habitat on your own properties. Take care and have a good week.